Hello and welcome to another Deprogrammed episode on Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. If you're watching this live, it's a Thursday. We're going to be airing this on Thursday at our usual time at 6 o'clock Central. We do interviews every Thursdays on this channel. I'm very excited about my guest today. She's someone I just became familiar with in the past week. Sometimes I have my head in the clouds on certain issues, but many of you may already be familiar with her. Her name is April Hutchinson. She is a record-setting Canadian powerlifter and an all-around badass. And I wanted to give a thank you to Dr. Linda Blade for making me aware of her. Please welcome April. Hello.
Hi, Keri. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
I want to ask you a technical question just to, can you hear that music in the background?
No.
Okay, good. That's my husband playing piano.
Oh, okay. I don't mind piano. That's okay.
It's kind of soothing. So if you can hear it, enjoy. Well, thank you for being here today. I've been reading a little bit about you and I have so many questions. First of all, for people who may not be familiar with you, can you just tell people, how do you talk about yourself? Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into powerlifting. And what is powerlifting?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know what powerlifting is, but yeah, so I'm a competitive powerlifter with the Canadian Powerlifting Union. I started powerlifting back in 2019 as a way to help me with mental health and addictions. I actually ended up going to rehab in September 2019 for alcohol addiction, which pretty much ran my whole life. So when I came out of rehab, I thought, well, I'm going to have to do something to keep active, to keep fit, to help me with my anxiety, mental health. So I actually started powerlifting. I have no idea why I chose powerlifting. I just stumbled across it one day at the gym. I saw this guy powerlifting. I was like, oh, I like that, the lifting of heavy weights. So I started doing it, and it was actually good timing because it was right before COVID hit, because COVID kind of came into the scene around March 2020. So thank God I was sober, because if I wasn't sober, I probably wouldn't be alive today. So yeah, I literally spent almost every day in the gym powerlifting with my coach. Things were like closed down, gyms, etc. So I just trained in a garage, and within 6 months I qualified for nationals.
That's amazing. Congratulations. I have a oh, I think you're frozen. Let me see. Oh, you're back. You're back. I have a I have a real interest in this, and I'm going to interject just for a second, because my husband and I got sober in October. Well, for me, it was October of 2019, and for him, it was like a week later in November 2019. And I've often thought about, thank you, I've often thought about same thing, like if I had still been drinking during COVID, I know statistically you see a lot of people, they didn't shut down the liquor stores, but they shut down the gyms, and a lot of people obviously started drinking more and falling off the wagon and stuff. And so I'm very grateful that happened for me around the same time as you before that. And can I ask a question about getting into powerlifting? Is it because it's something maybe so extreme? Like, I feel like sometimes I'm a person of extremes, and if I could quit drinking, I need to replace it with something that's like, I'm hardcore going to do this, all or nothing, right?
That's funny you say that, Keri, because I don't know if you know this, but most addicts or alcoholics are extreme people. We go, and it's a great characteristic, because you know what, if you get into something, you give it your all, your 100%, right? Yeah. And as you know, probably living a life as an alcoholic, you're so addicted to that up and down motion, right? The highs, the lows, all that stuff. So you know, with training, it's training my mind, not just my body, has helped me deal with a lot of that. So yeah, the powerlifting was just something like, it's very empowering, but I mean, I think I take a lot of my anger and my emotions out on the weight. So like when I go pick up and do a deadlift, I'm thinking about, sometimes I think about my addiction, and it helps me get through it. Like I'll be like, F you, addiction, you know, you're not coming back, you're not taking my life, or I'll think about the time I almost killed myself. Like I was very suicidal. I actually woke up in the ICU unit on a breathing tube, and that was like my last straw, right? Like my doctor is basically like, if you don't quit, you're going to die. So it was very much a life or death decision for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could have got into baseball or something else, but I just happened to choose powerlifting.
Or stand-up comedy. I did an open mic, and people may think that I don't have a fear of public speaking, but I do, especially when you can see people. And I went there and I felt like I got the high I needed. Like it was so scary. It was like a roller coaster, like, oh, I'm not drinking anymore. Let me do something terrifying. But
exactly. Well, you know what? Anything's better than drinking, right? So
yeah.
I remember I came out of when I came out of rehab, I had an addiction to sugar. Like I was replacing the alcohol with like gummy bears. Like every night I had to have my gummy bears but the doctor said that was very common because you're replacing the sugar from the alcohol. But I knew it was just going to be a phase, and it lasted 3 months. And then, my body started changing. I started building muscles because of the powerlifting, and now I eat like a very healthy diet. We have self-respect now, right? We have self-love. So I treat my body literally like a temple now, and I take care of it, which is great.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing before we get into some of the stuff that's happening in the powerlifting world? What, for anybody who might be interested in powerlifting, like what are the benefits? What are your favorite things about it?
Well, so powerlifting, I'll explain what it is. It's a bench press, a squat, and deadlift. It's the 3 movements. And I think deadlift is my favorite, but I think, what was the question again?
Oh, what are the benefits of it? Like, what have you gained by getting so into it?
So, there's many benefits, but I'd say like as I get older, like I'm in my 40s, right? So when you get older, like you start losing bone density. I see too many people, like even younger than me, that can't even get out of a chair without helping themselves out of the chair with their hands. So when you have like, muscles, like whether it's in your or flexible hips, and you can squat something, like when you squat, then some people can't even do a full squat, again, goes back to people that can't get out of a chair, right? So you're building muscle. That's going to be so important when you're 80 years old, or even again, just now, right? Especially with women. So I think a lot of women are afraid that they're going to get big and bulky with lifting heavy, and that's not the case. That's basically diet that will do that. Like if you eat donuts all day and lift heavy weights, you're going to get bulky, right? So no, I just think it's a big help with my mental health. Like it's just great to take it out on the weights, right? I'm having a bad day, take it out on the weights. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into some of the stuff that's been happening in the world of powerlifting. I on this channel, if you're not familiar with Deprogrammed, if there's anyone new who's watching, I tend to talk a lot about social justice ideology, which is often in the past few years been called woke, which is my old belief system, and the various like fields, hobbies, sports, and different companies and places that it's invaded. And so in talking with Dr. Linda Blade this week, I learned about you, and I learned that you are kind of a little firestorm in Canada. Can you tell me a little bit about? Let's talk about some of the Canadian Powerlifting Union's guidelines, I guess. Should we start there first of all, and their policies on transgender athletes competing against women?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, this has been quite an issue for a while now. There is a male-born athlete. There could be others, but I do know of one male-born athlete because I actually had to compete against this person. I knew this person was male-born about back in 2020. I don't think the Federation knew that. So I basically made them aware of that situation. And since then, it's just been like, just exploded. So prior to, say, a month ago, the transgender policy, which was created, I think, back in 2016, it was pretty weak. I think it was kind of thrown together quite quickly at that time. And basically, you could just identify as what you want. Like today I could be a female, tomorrow I might just go to a competition and decide that I'm male. So now Linda Blade and the women from ICFS, along with Icons, all these wonderful groups that I've been working with, we've been really pushing for the Federation to change the policy, at least at the minimum, to have testosterone monitoring. You know, it's not perfect, but at least it would be matching the International Powerlifting Federation policy, which all the countries seem to do except for Canada. So we're the only country except for Canada.
Yeah, just so we're clear, and I pulled up this policy here on the screen. They don't require it. Tell me if I'm understanding this correctly. The person, they don't have to have any type of surgery or what's known as a sex change or transition. They don't have to do any type of hormone therapy, and there's no monitoring of testosterone levels. Is that correct? They just simply have to say, I am a woman.
Yes. So basically it happened. I'm not sure if you're aware of this craziness that happened a couple months ago. A biological man named Avi Silverberg. He used to be a Team Canada coach. He's a big, burly, bearded man. To protest the policy, he actually went and competed in Alberta. He identified as a female. They let him compete, and he took the bench record away from the trans identifying athlete that held it before him. So how crazy is that? So,
to make a statement.
And everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe he would do that. That's horrible. And I'm like, well, that's exactly what's happening. The trans identifying person is doing the same thing. So how is that crazy? So
exactly.
It's just so funny. So now they changed the policy, which they actually made it even worse, which states, so you can it's the same policy basically, that you can do whatever you want, identify as what you want. And now my federation, like we won't get into that part, but even in the policy, it says you have to use pronouns. So like,
wait, they're compelling your everyone's language.
Yes.
Wow.
So the thing is, Keri, I'm not sure if it's a type of control they're going after, but you're a smart woman. If we start calling people, like if I start calling he or she, well, there goes our platform. There goes our fight. We might as well just give up. Because as soon as I can say that a man can be a woman or a woman can be a man, then what are we fighting for? So I will not be using pronouns. And I think the Federation seems to think that with our prime minister that it's protected and that we have to use it. It's not. It's forced speech, basically.
Forced speech is this issue is one of the first things that started to wake me up, because I used to be in that. I view it as a cult, but that cult of belief. And when I heard this was about 2016, 2017, it was a long process actually to leave a cult. But one of the first things that woke me up was this compelled speech issue, and I heard Jordan Peterson from Canada talking about compelled speech and how it's different from hate speech. And some people oppose hate speech laws because that's a form of control and coercion over what you can't say. But the compelled speech is even worse. It's saying what you must say. We're going to use you as a puppet to put these words to have them come out of your mouth. I don't know. I just thought I'd highlight that because that's really infuriating to me.
Well, that's the thing. Like, there's a difference. I've talked to lawyers. I'm highly educated on this topic. It's a difference between, because trust me, when I first started this, I'm like, oh, what can I say? What can I say? I remember the first time someone called me a bigot. I'm like, oh my God. And they're just trying to silence you, right? I know who I am. I'm not a bigot. I'm very accepting. I'm very loving of the whole community. But when it comes down to sports specifically, you have to call a spade a spade. You have to use the words like biological male. Because if you don't, there goes your whole fight and your whole debate and the science, right? So I totally agree with Dr. Peterson. I mean, I'm a big fan of his. But it's just crazy how many people walk around like robots going, okay, I will do what you say. I will say this. I will say that. Like, just tell me what to say. And I'm not going to give into that. It's like, I'm not going to give into like what I would call delusional thinking. I'm not going to enforce that. It's a community that basically thrives and gets their self-esteem and their identity by people affirming it for them. And, you know, that's not up to me. That's not my responsibility. But there's a difference between that, and there's a difference between, say, if I sit beside my coworker every day and this person identifies as a she, her, I would be respectful. But if you're saying to that person every day, you're a man, you're a man, you're a man, now that becomes harassment for sure. Okay. That's deliberate harassment. But when you're talking about, you know, for example, my federation doesn't like the fact that I'm saying biological male when I'm referring to people, they lose it, and they try to control my speech. And I'm like, I'm not doing it because I'm not harassing anyone. You can't get someone for harassment for talking about a wide group of people, right?
For stating a fact also.
And for stating the fact and science and truth. So, I mean, that's on our side. I was talking to Marcy from Keri Smith, the NCAA former swimmer, and she's like, yeah, like we have science on our side. We don't have to debate that anymore. It's almost in the beginning we were talking about the science. We have that. It's you know.
I've heard have you heard that expression, the truth needs no help? Like
exactly. I have heard that.
It's like the truth needs no help. Can you talk a little bit about I've heard that you are facing, speaking of harassment, and you're being treated differently, perhaps because of your opinions, and you just now saying, you know, I'm not going to use compelled speech and that kind of thing. Have you faced any repercussions? Like what kind of consequences or repercussions, I guess, have you faced as a result of saying, don't think this is right, that women should have biological men competing in the same sex segregated category?
Well, just recently, this is what I'm going through currently right now with my federation is they are basically trying to silence me and shut me down for basically posting or even just talking about that there's a biological male in my federation. They have sent me 2 letters in the past stating, the last letter said that I'm not allowed to wear my Team Canada uniform and speak my views, or, you know, which I wasn't. Like, I have a Team Canada uniform because I actually lift for them. I'm going to be lifting for them in August. And at no time did I ever say that, oh, I lift for the federation and these are my views. And I'm speaking on behalf of my federation. I've never said that. Right. So they kind of wanted to shut me down with that. And then they also said, you know, you have to use pronouns. And basically, if I don't obey, then they will suspend me and I will not be able to lift with the federation.
They have the power to suspend you so that you can't compete.
Yeah, that was the last letter they sent me. Now, they didn't tell me I had to use pronouns. At the bottom, it was kind of like, be kind, be respectful, please, we ask that you use pronouns. So they kind of worded it that way. But if you look in the policy, it does say that they want the members to use pronouns. It's right in their policy. So,
and it's such deceit, because there's nothing kind or respectful about compelling speech of other people and forcing people to say things that aren't true.
It's disrespectful. And I say that all the time. I'm like, you think it's disrespectful? Well, it's disrespectful for you to push your views on me, let alone, what if I'm religious? Like, are you telling me just to drop my religious views and just say exactly what you tell me to, when it's completely wrong and false? So yeah, I mean, I took down the photos from my Instagram that probably they said, you know, I was wearing my Team Canada outfit, and I put like a little quote like saying, I think everyone should be able to lift, but on a fair playing field. So I was wearing my Team Canada uniform, so I took that one down. But see, it was just a simple quote like that. I wasn't speaking on behalf of my federation.
Yeah.
But I honestly think they are trying to intimidate me, trying to silence me. So I will just literally drop the topic.
What does your Team Canada uniform look like? Is it a jumpsuit? Is it a fancy jumpsuit?
It's like I do have like a jumpsuit, like a tracksuit, but the singlet that I wear. What?
Go ahead. You go ahead.
No, the outfit that I wear when I'm lifting is a singlet that you would wear for powerlifting, and it says CAN on it. So like literally, it's just kind of funny because they don't own Team Canada. Like I could go to Walmart and buy a Team Canada t-shirt tomorrow. So it's like
I want someone to make you. I want someone to make you a jumpsuit and a singlet that says Team Woman, and then you only say your opinions when you wear the Team Woman costume.
I would love that.
Yeah. I know there are some sewists. There's a girl that I hang out with she calls herself a sewist. She's a seamstress. If you look, somebody needs to step up and make a Team Woman uniform for April.
I would love that.
You'd be like, hey, look what I'm wearing. I can say what I want.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. The scary part of this all is that the people that are writing these policies and that are for the male-born athlete competing majority of them are women. And so like, that's just crazy. So there's women in my federation that are actually helping to erase women's sports just for the sake of being inclusive. So they don't care about fairness and competitive sport. They would rather have, being inclusive. So it's crazy.
Funny enough, in all the past couple of years that I've been having conversations with people about this, my old belief system, and it's a lot. That's not surprising to me. It's a lot of women who push it. And I think that's actually might be just because women on average are more open and more interested in people than things. And I think women's emotions can be easily co-opted and used against them. What's the word that they call it? Weaponizing our own empathy, right? Where it's like, if you think you're doing something good, you can do almost anything bad because you're like, but the ends are good. This is all about inclusion and acceptance and not being a mean person, right? Okay, so in the path to get there, we're going to do these horrible things. Got it.
And I think, by nature, women are just more nurturing, right? So, and we do have to understand, and I get it. There are obviously people in my federation that have maybe a trans child or family members. And there are people from the LGBT community. A lot of female lifters are from the LGBT community, which really kind of like, I love the community. I have friends and family in that community, and it's just horrible that they don't see the difference. Like, it's not that we are not supporting that. And I think they kind of jump on the bandwagon and go, no, we have to support trans people too. But it's not that, because they obviously want to be accepted too, right? Everyone just wants to be accepted. But when it comes down to competitive sport and bodies, we're talking about bodies here, right? Competing against each other, especially with a strength sport, you have to call them like a biological males, and you have to realize it's a different story, right? It's not about us not accepting people. It's about fairness.
It's about fairness. Do you think that the Canadian Powerlifting Union at some point might adopt the same policy that we just saw in cycling in Britain, where the British Cycling said, okay, we've done a 9-month review of the science, and we've also talked to trans activists and, the politics of it. And we think the fairest thing to do is to have an open category and then a women's category, and the women's category just for biological women, because biological men have a physical advantage. Open category for anyone who wants to compete. Do you think they might eventually?
Well, I mean, there is a federation in Canada, the CPL, so it's different, Canadian Powerlifting League, and I've been talking to the president over there, and he's like, I just can't believe the CPU is their policy. Like, everyone is quite shocked, and even other federations are like, wow, like they're just mind blown by their policy, and so their policy over at the CPL, which I was thinking about, like if I don't lift with the CPU, which I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit the CPU, but their policy is if you are trans, you have to compete in the untested. So against people on performance enhancing drugs. So steroids, essentially.
Wow.
Or you lift in your biological sex assigned, which is way better than obviously what we have. But what we're trying to get is for our federation to align with the International Powerlifting Federation, because that's the federation that's higher than it kind of governs all of the countries, right? Like when I go to compete at the North Americans, it's an international meet. Same with Worlds. So it's on an international platform, and that's run by the International Powerlifting Federation. Their policy is testosterone monitoring for 2 years, and it has to be lower than 2.4. And you also have to apply. So not only do you have to be monitored, but then you have to apply with the chief medical officers and get approval. So it's better than what we have now. But technically the CPU should be following the IPF. Even the IPF has said, you need to be following this. Yeah, there you go. That's exactly, you can see the differences there.
So here on the screen is a graph that that you sent me that the International Consortium on Female Sports put out. Yes. And it just shows, if you're just listening instead of watching, it's just a chart that shows the different policies between the International Powerlifting Federation and the Canadian Powerlifting Union and how they don't match up, which is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, here you can see, it's just amazing to me. The International Powerlifting Federation has these rules like, hey, if you're a male in a female category, you must, 1, declare your gender identity in advance. Number 2, demonstrate your testosterone level is below this amount, etc. And over here, the Canadian side, it's like nothing.
Just come on in.
Yeah. Come on in.
Yeah, and it's great. Like, here we are laughing, but it really, Keri, it's so embarrassing. And again, I'm not talking on behalf of my federation. I think they seem to think that everyone's in support, because everyone's just so afraid to speak out to them. I'm probably the only one that has been vocal on media. I get so many messages from lifters in the powerlifting union that have said, thank you for speaking up. We are behind you. I know people, even like a referee with the CPU today was like, I'm quitting. I'm done with this. I'm handing in my membership. A whole bunch of lifters are planning on quitting, or if not, they've already quit and gone over to another federation. And that's men and women. So,
because it destroys the whole sport. It attacks the entire like the institution of sportsmanship and fairness. It's not just about the women's category.
Exactly. And like for me, to train, like this one person in particular, the athlete, like they put I think 300 pounds on their lifts, all their lifts in 1 year. That's just crazy. The person also holds all the records in their province, and they're going for, I think, the national deadlift record coming up. And I just it's crazy. And the thing is, no woman will ever break that record because it's being held by a man. So the only way it's going to be broken is if another trans athlete breaks it, AKA a biological man, because a woman will never break those records.
It's so unfair. I have to laugh at it because otherwise I stay in anger a lot. But
I'm the same as you. It's like, I'm sure you see daily when the word woke, you just see these crazy things happening every day. And you're like, wow, is this for real? Sometimes you think you're watching a TV show. It's is this really happening? But in Canada, It's way worse. And the reason why you probably haven't noticed me is because media in Canada will not touch the topic. They are government funded. Like you take CBC, who's the biggest company here in Canada, they're government funded by Trudeau, like our government,
Yeah.
which is Trudeau. And we all know how Trudeau is. So
Yes.
it's like, it's
He
crazy.
says,
Yeah.
what was it he said? He doesn't say mankind. He says people kind.
Yeah, people kind.
I don't know. He's so cringe.
Yeah. So it's, yeah. So, you know what I mean? That's the stuff we have going on right now. And like, he's the same guy that on International Women's Day tweeted out trans women are women. So that's our leader right there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
When I think he's one of the worst, honestly. I think he
yeah.
in terms of world leaders or people who have aspirations to be world leaders who will say and do anything. Like I think Gavin Newsom is another one in California, but Trudeau's the worst. And so I have to, because someone like that, who I think, this is just my opinion, this is not April's opinion or the CPU or Team Canada, I happen to think he's sociopathic. But so I have to remind myself of how embarrassing he is and have laughs at him. Like he has, at one point I saw in an interview he did, he said he doesn't know how many blackface photos are out there of him. That he couldn't put a number on it. And I was like, wow, that's when you know you've done a lot of that, when you're like, I don't know how many times it happened. But yeah, I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry that you have that guy in there. Can you talk a little bit about, because you're talking about Canada and how much worse it is there, the climate, and you've been vocal about this for a couple years now, at least 3 years, maybe longer, since you got into it.
Well, I'd say just more. I think I really picked it up and started being really, because again, like I said, I was a little afraid in the beginning to come out. But I really been blasting it out there since last November, I think. So,
okay. Do you think the times are changing? Do you think people are more?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was just talking to Keri Smith today, head of Icons, and it's just crazy that other swimmer came out. Riley Gaines' teammate came out just the other day. I mean, so many more, even like young women, like the volleyball player, the high school player. I mean, we saw actually was last week in, was it Tennessee maybe, that a father and daughter sued the state because they spoke out and they tried to get to silence them, and they sued for $125,000 and they won. So it's reversing, and like I always say, the tides are turning, and they really are. I mean, truth will prevail, right? And it's just, that's what's going to happen. And if you just stick to the truth, which we are, we're not being mean, we're not being disrespectful. We're literally just telling the truth, and that will literally, we can win with just that. It's just, it is. It's not going to happen overnight, obviously, but I mean, it's probably going to take a lot longer in Canada because we have Trudeau in government. I think next year they will have the election, I think next October. So hopefully the Conservatives or whoever, anyone else but Trudeau gets some power. Anyone, please.
What would you say to people who, because sometimes I agree with you. I'm glad to hear that. I think things are changing, and just in the few years or so that I've been doing a different kinds of podcasts and stuff, I see so many more people who are getting over their fear of saying things, of speaking. There's so many more people speaking, and the more that happens, the more people feel comfortable, and the more people feel comfortable. So I do think things are changing, but I still occasionally hear from people, even in my audience, who are like, hey, I have all these fears of saying what I think. And their fears are legitimate, like losing a job, losing social circle, losing their sense of safety, or what have you. And what would you say to them if they're struggling with fear? Like, what are the I know I asked you the benefits of powerlifting. What are the benefits of saying what you believe to be true despite any fear?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I was talking about that today, and there was a time before I met Icons and Linda Blade and all them, and I was very alone. And I thought to myself, okay, well, I'm suffering from depression and anxiety because I feel very alone in my fight. But I also, if I don't speak up, then I'll suffer even more depression and anxiety and lack of sleep. And obviously, you know, that's not good for someone that's an alcoholic, right? I was fearful that, oh my God, like, you know, am I going to drink again? I really, my number one daily thing each day is to make sure I'm okay, that I'm, you know, mentally okay. Cause that could be very dangerous for me. Right. So for me, I kind of looked at my risks and I thought, no, I have to say something. I have to get it. So I reached out for help. And again, that's another thing with addicts and alcoholics. You're not going to get better if you don't ask for help. Yes. So I put my hand out. I reached out to Marshy, to Icons, to Independent Women, to Linda. I mean, we're talking about prime ministers right now. Linda Blade should be prime minister. She is an amazing. I said to her today, I'm so grateful for her. She's just, I'm going to cry just talking about her.
She's amazing.
Like, just gone out of her way and helped me. And I mean, she's so passionate about females and female sports and fairness. And so with these amazing women, we've built an army, and we're getting louder and louder and stronger each and every day. And I guess what I want to say to people that are thinking about speaking out is just, you know, always be respectful. Like we were talking about earlier, there's a difference between hate speech and compelled speech and all these different ways of getting your message out there. Mm-hmm. I'm very respectful and compassionate. I mean, I will never believe that a man could be a woman or vice versa, but that's the science and that's my belief. And everyone's entitled to their belief. I'm not trying to take anyone down or say you're not allowed to believe whatever. That's fine. People have their own opinions. But I mean, you can't force it on people, right? And I would never force people. Like, if someone thinks a trans woman is a woman, I go, okay, that's your opinion. And I get out of the conversation. I don't sit there and start pointing my finger and go, no, you're wrong, and do this and do that. I said, cool, that's fine, right? But I mean, there's ways to get your message out there. Unfortunately, the left, I call them the left side, will try to silence you by using words. And I remember the first time someone called me, I mean, maybe like 3 times or less I've ever been called a bigot. I don't know if people actually know and understand what a bigot is, but they just basically mean that all rights should be taken away from that group, that they shouldn't even have the right to live or have anything, right? I'm not even touching that, right? I'm basically just sticking to sports and the biology and the science, right? And I have to use obviously certain words, right? But I mean, I just feel that they will try to be almost, I guess, very 5-year-oldish, very immature ways of trying to silence you with threats and names and stuff like that. So, I mean, I have a job and I've always been respectful. I've never even been warned, oh, April, don't say that or don't talk about this. My work knows what I'm doing. They know I'm an athlete. They know I'm sticking up for women and fairness. And if I said anything wrong at all, I'm sure I'd be spoken to, right? So, I mean, I've always been respectful. So
you mentioned the name calling, and I can't remember if you said this during the interview or before we started, but at one point you said, but I know who I am. And that means a lot to me, because that's the understanding I eventually came to also. When I got over my fear of criticizing my old ideology, which took me a while, it was like, oh, it doesn't matter what they call me. Like, I think a lot of adults even get held back by this fear of, what if someone thinks the wrong thing about me? Like, oh my gosh, what if they think I'm a racist, or what if they think I'm a bigot, or what if they think I don't like trans people? It doesn't matter if they think the wrong thing about you. You know who you are. I love that you said that. I know who I am.
Well, it's funny. I don't know if you ever went to AA at all.
I did.
But do you know on the back of so I'll just tell the audience, on the back of an AA coin, you have the Serenity Prayer. And then on the other half of the AA coin, these are tokens that you get for your sobriety. So if you have like a 1 month sobriety, 2 months, blah, blah, blah. On the other side of the coin, it says, which is my favorite expression, to thine own self be true. So that's like, because, you know, if you're not true to yourself and you cannot go to bed at night and put your head on the pillow and have a clean conscience, then, we could relapse. You get filled with anger, you get filled with hate, you get, depressed. I mean, if you speak your truth and you know who you are as a person and you don't care what people think of you, which, trust me, when I was 20 years old, I cared about the whole world and what they thought about me.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? As I get older and I'm like, hey, this is my life. And I love myself and respect myself. And I do love people and I want to speak the truth. I mean, like they always say, the truth will set you free, right? And it's so true. And yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. So what is next for you? What's on the horizon for you? And are there any big competitions coming up? Are there any, is there any pushback that you're worried about from your federation, or how can people support you? That's the other question, the follow-up.
Well, I think so. My next competition will be at the North American Championships, and those will be in Grand Cayman in August. I went last year; it was great. I currently hold the North American total and the deadlift record, so I'm going back to retain it and get better. That's right. So that's and that's the thing. So right now, the last communication I had with my federation was that I have to reply back to them, basically telling them that I will not wear my Team Canada outfit and speak on behalf of the federation, which I never do. And also, they would like me to use pronouns. Again, they were just asking. It's not like I have to sign off on that document and say, "Oh, I will do that." But currently right now, I'm just trying to look more into the complaint that was made and the appeal process, because I don't believe they did it legally through the committee. So I do want them to send me proof on how they actually came to this conclusion. What was the appeal process? Was there fees paid? I want to see the invoice. There's a whole bunch of stuff, legal stuff that I'm getting into. So but yeah, so I don't know. I'm hoping to go to North American Championship in August, but who knows? They might not like something I say and suspend me. I don't know, but I do have obviously a good legal team with me, so I'm feeling pretty secure. So, and I would just suggest to people out there, like, just, don't feel like you have to be silenced, right? Like, there's a lot of people out there that think the same way, and trust me, like, I got thousands of messages, especially when I was going on like Tucker Carlson and all these big shows. I had people worldwide contact me and say, "Thank you so much. My daughter plays soccer. What can I do? Thank you for looking out for my daughters, my nieces." It's so amazing, like, when I get messages like that, because that just reminds me, right? Like, I don't have kids, I have nieces, and kind of like what Riley said, like, she gave up a dentistry school to be an activist. Like, I'm not going to lose anything I'm not gaining, except for like the right to have fair sport, right? But like, I work my normal job and I just want to do a sport that I love, right? Yeah. And when that's taken away by having unfairness, like, it's, of course I'm going to fight for that.
Yeah. I think things, like we said, things are changing, but unfortunately on the path to get there are people like you and Riley Gaines who have to take a lot of flack in the meantime, like the target for a lot of the vileness. And that's why people are telling you thank you, because they appreciate it that you're out there doing that. It's amazing. Yeah.
There's a lot of people behind the scenes, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish you would just like stop thanking me and just like tweet something or speak out.
Yes.
But because a lot of the time, it's like they're being complicit, right? They're part of the problem if they don't speak up. But I understand people have jobs, some people work like where they can't speak up and be known. And some people just are introverts and they don't even like to be out there at all, right? So I get that. And I mean, I have no problems. If I die like next year, I'll die a happy person because I fought for this, to me, that's what life's all about. I don't care how many medals I have. I don't care how many things I've like kind of done in the past. The main important thing is that A, I'm sober today, and B, that I've fought for women in sports and the future of sports, basically.
Yeah. And you had allegiance to the truth. That's I think that's a big thing. Like you said, to thine own self be true. There's nothing more important.
Yeah.
Personal opinion, but So where can people find you online? And if you're watching this, we have links below. We have April's bio and some links, but just for anybody who's just listening, tell them where they can find you if they do want to get in touch with you or follow you.
So I do have a couple different social media outlets. The main one I use, well, I have my Instagram, which is basically my name, April.Hutchinson. And I also have a Twitter account. I believe I changed I think it's LEA, so Lee_Christina. And that will be my Twitter account. I probably post more on my Twitter because you kind of post more stuff there and more free speech on Twitter. So
I wanted to just show this picture. Let's see if I can get this. Because I went to your profile, and that's when I was like, oh, we're the same number of years sober. Look at that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a cool video. That was all my friends. Like there's Jessica Bittner. She's a very famous powerlifter. A lot of these friends from my powerlifting community basically made signs for me. And, yeah, it was just so cool. Yeah, so
and then look at this. I mean, come on. You're a powerful woman. I love it.
Well, that's funny. Not bad for 47, eh?
Right? Oh my gosh, not bad at all. I like going and getting into what other people are into, kind of like figuring out. I don't have to be like, I'm not into the Super Bowl, for example, but I like hanging out with people who are, because you have a lot of fun. And one of my best friends is a bodybuilder, so I've been able to go to some bodybuilding competitions and see what that world's about. And it's so, you're there with people who are into it and very excited. So one of these days, I'm going to make it a goal to go to a powerlifting competition.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, come to Grand Cayman Islands.
It sounds like a lot of fun. Well, thank you, April, so much. Thank you for not just joining us and sharing your story and your insight, but thank you for what you're doing in the world of sports. I love it.
Oh, thank you so much. And I just want to say congrats to you and your husband, because I mean, we'll be almost sharing the same. All of us will have about 4 years coming up. So, and if there's anyone else out there struggling with addiction problems, just know that, hell, send me a message. I'll always talk to you, and I can give you resources. And I mean, I'm always out there to help. And you're not alone, and just reach out for help. It's very important. So.
And there's no lost causes. Like, I never thought I would be sober a year, let alone 3 or almost 4. Like, anything's possible.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think we got sober in a really good time. It's actually kind of cool to be sober. Like, there's so many sober bars now, where people just go and hang out. And like, my boyfriend has 3 daughters, and like none of them drink. They're all teenagers. They're like, no, we don't drink. And like, it's actually kind of hip now to be healthy, thank God. So it's not
great.
Like, back when we grew up, it was like, you're like doing marijuana at 14, and you go into the drinking. It's like, to stages, and it's just like, now it's like, it's not even cool to do that stuff, which I love, and it makes my life easier. So.
Yeah, that's great. This is my next thing that I'm kicking, because I sometimes.
Oh yeah, me too. Energy.
I just like that I drink the energy drinks. I was like, I try to limit them to like maybe 2 a month. But I know I got to get rid of that, because it's like, yeah. Anyway,
I usually drink them for my workout. I'll drink them like while I'm like training, basically. So, or coffee, whatever.
Do you have your like, when you're in training versus non-training diet? Do you really kick it? Like, my bodybuilder friend has her, this is when I'm in competition mode, and this is when I'm not. Or are you pretty much healthy all the time?
Well, it's funny. My plan was to lose some weight before summer, just to cut a little bit and to lose like maybe 10, 20 pounds. Like, I mean, over a long period of time, like months, right? But it seems that whenever I have a competition coming up, especially my coach, right, he'll be really like on me to eat extra calories, especially like, say, next month, I'll be peaking for my competition. That means I'll be lifting my heaviest weights, and then I usually eat in a surplus, so I'll eat like 300 calories more a day for the energy, right? And the strength. But I mean, I feel like since I started powerlifting, there's no really good time for me to cut weight. Like, so, I mean, I think after North Americans in August, I can spend the whole winter, basically. You're supposed to be bulking. I mean, this is for bodybuilding. I'm not a bodybuilder, but I'm going to start to cut weight after my competition, because otherwise it's too stressful to have to like, I mean, I'm happy with my weight. Would I like to lose 10 pounds? Sure. Like, I'm a female, right? I'm always like, oh, I could look better. I could lose weight here or on my hips or my stomach. But at the end of the day, I'm very happy, and I just try to eat whole foods and eat healthy. And I have my cheat days, but I don't kill myself to try to lose weight.
You still have cheat days. So that's good to know. I feel less bad about my cheat days then. Okay. Thank you so much, April.
Yeah.
You guys go and follow April Hutchinson. You can find links below. And also, I would say support Icons Women. And what's the one that Dr. Blade told me about? ICFS Sports. ICF Sports. And thank you guys for tuning in.
Take care. Thank you so much, Keri.